Hi friends, today we're going to be painting a wreath with some flowers on it, and welcome to Watercolors with Jaylene. Thank you for joining me today. So let's go over the materials list real quick. It's pretty basic. We have our watercolor paper, watercolor paints. I'm just going to be using one size brush, and this is a number 8 round Princeton. I have a pencil that I'm just going to be drawing the circle with, pretty basic. And then my ultra fine point Sharpie to fill in the grapevine part of it. My water, of course, for cleaning my brush off, a little tray for my paints, and then this is the lid to my stackable trays to mix my paints, and I'm going to be doing the circle, drawing the circle in real quick. So let's get started with this. And actually, before we get started, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and go ahead and hit the like button if you enjoy this video. And so let's move right along here. So here is my piece of watercolor paper, and I'll just center this. I just kind of eyeball it, so it might not be perfect, but that's okay. It's just a scrap piece of watercolor paper that I had laying around, and I just made sure that it was big enough for that lid. So I really lightly drew the circle on there just so that I do keep it nice and round, and I don't get a little wonky, you know, with it going off center, off circle. So for my flowers today, I'm going to just grab some rose color, and let me kind of swirl it around on the plate here. I'm not sure if you can see this. And this little plate, it's just out of my kitchen cupboard, actually. Okay, so I have some of the paint, and I do want to make this somewhat of a nice heavy color. So I have a lot of paint and water both on my brush, and I'm going to be putting in 3 flowers and kind of off center on the bottom of this. And they are kind of large, and they're just just a basic little flower, no specific type of flower, but they're a fun flower that I like to draw. And so as I go through and put these petals on, I am making sure that I leave plenty of room in the center. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I do like to make sure that I have 5 petals on the flowers that I paint. I just, for whatever reason, I like that odd number, whether it's 5, 3, 7, but typically it is 5. Okay, so we have the first flower, and I'm doing all the flowers in the same color. And this color, if you're wondering, is just it's a rose color. And so you can really choose any color that you want. You know, if you have a favorite color scheme that you like to work with. There's no set, colors that we need to be using. And you can see that this little petal did go over into the other flower, and that's just fine because they are very close on this wreath. We want it to be nice and full looking. And so once these petals dry, I'll actually be going over and adding a second color to give them a little bit of depth, and you'll see that when we get to that stage. So there's number 2, and then I'm going to put another flower down here. Okay. And then, of course, I will have in the description below, the different materials list, or everything on the materials list that I'm using today. It is a pretty basic, simple list, but it's good for reference, right? All right, and then here's the last petal for this flower. Okay, so you can see I just kind of real quickly drew them on there very loosely. All right, so while that's drying, because we do, as I mentioned, I will be adding another layer with a different color. So it's going to be layering wet onto dry. In some flowers that we paint, we do like to use wet into wet so that they blend, so that the colors blend nicely, but that's not the look that I'm going for today. So actually, to mix up some green, I'm going to use a little bit of my blue, like a Prussian blue, and then I'm going to grab some yellow, and this is just like a cadmium yellow. Get like a nice deep green going on here. And it's nice, you know, when you're doing this, if you want to, you know, use some different shades of green, that's nice. Gives it a lot of character. And so for the leaves, I'm kind of following the circle that I had drawn. And I think, actually I want this to be a little bit darker. Let me grab some more blue. Okay. That is a nice shade of green, but not the color that I was wanting. So I want a nice beefy leaf here, and then I'm going to put in a smaller one. And when it comes to leaves, you know, everyone has their favorite leaves that they like to draw. So use whatever you're comfortable with. You know, this is just a nice creative process. I was going to say project, and I switched it to process, so either one will work. Okay. And I am making these very, you know, the colors very, very heavy on this, intentionally. And then I'm going to grab just a little bit more yellow and lighten this up a little bit. So we have the darker or bolder leaves right there, and now I'm just going to add in some leaves going along, and I put a little bit more yellow in with this just to give it a different shade. And I am using, as I mentioned, an awful lot of paint on my brush. It's not translucent at all, because I do want this particular design to be a nice bold design, nice bold colors. And I'm just kind of filling in with some leaves along the way here. And you can put as many or as little as you want. We're also going to be adding some berries. So that'll, whoops, that'll add to it also. And then you may want to even add a couple little sprigs or wisps throughout with the very tip of your brush. You know, just to fill in a little bit here and there. I think I'll put just a couple there. Okay. Oh, and that spot over there, well, I'll leave that. I'll leave that. Okay, so I am still waiting for the base of the flowers to dry, that rose color. So while we're waiting for that, I think what I want to do is just go ahead and grab my Sharpie marker, and I'm going to just draw in the grapevine portion of this. And I do turn it because all of these paints are still wet and I don't want to be smearing them. So for the grapevine portion of this, you just kind of follow the circle around, and then you don't want obviously real straight perfect lines. You want these to be a little wobbly and wonky looking. And we're just going to go back and forth and make this nice and thick, because grapevine wreaths are quite thick and full. All right, so with that, I've gotten the thickness that I want. So now I'm just going to go back and forth and make it more dense. We want a nice dense wreath. We kind of want to wobble those lines as we do this. You can do as much or as little. Whoops. See how quick and easy this is? That's the fun part of this. You know, the skill level is, it's for everybody, really. Okay, so I have that probably about as thick as I want it. And you can use your own judgment, you know, with what you like. So I do think that the red part is pretty well dry. So what I'm going to do now is just grab some darker rose color and get some of this on my brush. And so for this part, I'm going to be using basically just the tip of my brush, this nice fine point tip. And so I'm going into the bottom of each one of the petals. There's a little too much on there, and just kind of adding a little bit of color. This is going to add definition to the petals and some definition and contrast. And you just want to do it right in the middle, and then maybe a few swoops up like on the sides, or even one of the you know, the little wisps going along. It's real easy. It's a very loose design. You know, there's no right or wrong on this. You can do as much or as little as you want. This really would be beautiful done in blues and purples. It could be absolutely gorgeous. Let me get just a little more on my brush here. And then a lot of times with my flowers, if you've seen any of my past videos, once again, you'll notice that for the centers, I do like to use, you know, the darker colors. However, today I'm going to switch that up a bit and go with some of a yellowish, orangish center. And so we'll be getting to that in a minute or two also. And there again, to put the centers into the flowers, I'm going to want for this color to dry a little bit, just so that they're not blending. I just don't want to go with that blended look on this particular project. All right, so I think that's good for this layer of color. And so once again, while we're letting that dry, I am going to grab some, this is a purplish color. On the color chart, they call it purple. To me, it's more of a, I don't know, like magenta color. But I'm going to add just a little bit of the cobalt violet in with it. There, that's the look that I wanted. That's going to be great. So I'm going to use this for the berries. And there again, you know, you can use whatever color suits your mood. And then I'm just going to kind of loosely draw in. That is pretty dark. Okay, I'm just going to kind of loosely draw in some berries along the way. And I do want to make sure that a little portion of white is showing through on all the berries. That kind of is like a, oh, I don't know, like a reflection maybe of the light source shining down onto it. We'll tuck one in there and put one here and maybe right here. So with the very tip of your brush, you can kind of draw in a little stem to some of the berries. Okay, so I think that's good with the berries, and they add a great accent. Now the flowers themselves, I guess they are dry enough, so I'm just going to mix up a little bit of a orange along with a yellow ochre to kind of tone it down a little bit. We want it bold but not super bright. So once again, with the tip of my brush, I'm going to grab this paint and just kind of dab into the centers of these flowers. leaving a little bit of white showing here and there. And I'm kind of doing small little dashes and dots. I'm being very sloppy about it. Okay, so that really is about the end of it. I've got all the flowers painted in very nicely. I have the little berries on there, and if you wanted to do a little bit more up the sides, you know, with the flowers, or even with some greenery, if you wanted to put a word in the middle like peace or love, that would be really cute as well. And as I mentioned, I am going to put the materials list in my description box down below so that you can see exactly everything that I've used today. And as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you could go ahead and do that, I would really appreciate it. It does help my channel grow, and I appreciate all of you folks that follow me. And if you want to leave a comment below, a comment or a question, I love them. I get back to everybody. And so until next time, ciao for now.